Hello, my name is Maurice Choi. Today I'm going to introduce this book called Think Back. The book Think Back is a heartbreaking and thought-provoking memoir in which award-winning writer for telling the story of John Stanley, his father. Stanley was the first black software engineer at IBM. The memoir recounts the story of Stanley and how racism insidiously affects his self-perception and the relationship he forgets with other people. It is a powerful book that tells the story of a strong black character trying to stand out in an industry full of white supremacists and racist perception. Stanley was recruited to work for IBM by Thomas J. Watson Jr., the founder of IBM. Stanley tolerated 25 years of struggles with racism, especially coming from the white colleagues. One of the key moments that are highlighted in the book involves the white college trying repeatedly to get Stanley fired. The tale tells the story of black struggle in the U.S. even as social injustices continue to be meted out against the black people. The black struggle in common and minority ethnic groups in the U.S. have to fight for their place in society. As Ford documented, the story of his father is one of courage and perseverance. As he writes at some point in the book, like Robertson, my father had also stepped into the role of elevating him as a symbol much larger than his individual self. Ford writes the book with a sense of outrage towards the struggle that his father had to go through to have his voice heard in a predominantly white professional field and industry. Ford depicts Stanley as more conciliatory than he could have been when Thomas hired him in 1971. Stanley stands out as a key character due to the aspect of how he carries his African nationalist pride in the face of racism and racism. Ford detailed the race history of IBM as a corporation that supported apartheid and the Nazi. Stanley was a rather stoic individual and he fought back against racism at IBM in every way possible. At some point, he acquired a document that had answers to the question on the entry exam at IBM and handed the document to black applicants. It illustrates the fact that it was difficult for black applicants to have an equal opportunity with their white counterparts. Ford writes from a perspective of a son who perceived his father as a fighter who improved his life as a young black man. Stanley was overlooked for promotion severely. As a result, he had internalized the racism that was happening around him at the time. Stanley experienced first-hand racism to the point that he came to terms with the perceptions that he was inferior in the midst of the predominantly white work environment. The fact that his career did not advance future proof to Stanley that he was an inferior being in that environment. Clive did not follow the path that his father paved. One of the key aspects that shape pride in that manner include the realities of Stanley as a black man in that environment at the time. Crime was far more radical, and he resisted the idea of conforming himself to the expectations of the right business world. Ford ended up at IBM, but unlike his father, he left at some point to chase other ambitions. The time Ford spent at IBM enabled him to understand his father, and he learned how Stanley and various other people have up their dream to protect the financial security of the company. As such, the book Think Back is a classic thought-provoking narrative that revolves around the tales of African American perseverance and pride. The author individuals' experience with racial and technological history to illustrate how these elements influence one another. The story includes complex details regarding hardware and software, as well as profound examinations of how IBM had close ties to oppressive political regime. The way Ford examines his father's past cannot change their relationship, but the memoir is written in a manner that powerfully honors his ambitions and contributions to the digital era.